Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We'll take a look at the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodity ETFs and commodities that I follow. And again, if you need any help with anything, definitely check out finding-value.com. I do have a website, and the platinum membership is the membership I would be choosing because the silver one is going away. And let's dive in here. I'll give you my financial opinions around everything. And we're going to start with the dollar, the DXY. So we've got the DXY here. Let me put the watermark back on here. I accidentally had that off. This is the DXY. We are coming on up. We're getting a little bit of selling pressure through here. That's why it's coming down a little bit today, 0.21%. But overall, I don't see a clear direction on if we're going higher or lower here. We're basically at a spot that we're just chucking sideways here. We've got nice buying pressure coming up, but we are getting some selling pressure on the right-hand side here. So we could pull back, and we may not. We could pull forward. We're kind of in an indecisive stage. We've got plenty of buying and selling candlesticks going back and forth, moving sideways here. So it's not a clear-cut direction on which way we're going in the dollar in the short term. The 10-year yield, we were looking like we were going to head lower today, but that reversed throughout the day, and the momentum is heading higher. So that actually looks good to move higher. We call this a bullish piercing pattern where we gap down in the morning, and it was bought up all the way throughout the day. And if we look at that from like a 5-day, you basically have a downtrend. It gapped lower and then was bought throughout the day and broke that downtrend line. So now the momentum is actually to the upside. That's what it looks like from that downtrend line perspective. So it's that downtrend that looks like that. Looking at the 30-year yield, that also has the same signature as the 10-year yield, gap down, then momentum is heading to the upside. That also correlates very well with the price of oil. So oil and yields, they do move in tandem together and are somewhat correlated. They're not 100% correlated, but they're somewhat correlated. Bond prices, they do the opposite of yields. So that gapped up and worked its way down lower. So yields move higher, bond prices move lower. And I think that is what we're going to see is yields higher, bond prices lower. Look at the TYX TNX ratio. We're flatlining a little bit. Not much. And what that means is that the curve went up somewhat together. It's not inverting too much more. And it's, in fact, this is normalizing just a teeny bit. But it's not much to really, say anything about. The CRP index, slightly lower. That is a bloody nose. That generally is a continuation pattern to the upside in the short term. Longer term, you can see this was a bottom. We've come on up. And we're coming through this kind of falling wedge pattern, and maybe we'll come up. We could also be putting in what would be a larger candlestick where we come back down one last time. That is a possibility. That's not what I'm projecting, but I'm just saying it is possible. So zooming on in, you can see what we're doing here. And I'll snug this up a little bit there. You could say we've broken out and we're ready to break. You can also run on the tops of these guys here, somewhere in this range in here, and say that we could potentially move higher. But I'm just going to leave it like this. It's not as important, the exact timing in the short term, because I'm in it for the long term. But right now, it still looks good to move higher. The CRB to S&P 500, slightly lower today. That's what we're seeing on today's candlestick, basically a retest. We've talked about that before, a breakout, and then I said, hey, it's probably going to come back and do a retest. And what that means is that it breaks out, comes on back, and then we move on higher, which is a potential possibility. Again, we're playing with statistics, and they're going to say, oh, well, what's the exact statistic? Does it really matter? I'll just say the odds are slightly in your favor. Maybe, 70, 80%, something on the lines of that, if you've already broken out and we're doing a retest move. Looking at gold also not looking too bad. I think this is going to continue higher. That's a bloody nose. A bloody nose is when you get a big green candlestick, a small red one next to it, and it continues higher. That's what I've seen. It's a small profit-taking day. Silver's got the same thing, a little bit larger down day than gold. But this could be a little profit-taking day, and then we continue higher. Now, some people are going to say, well, it's 100% going to continue higher. I'm not saying it's 100%. We're playing with probabilities. What are those probabilities? I don't know. A lot of the times when I've seen this setup, it's probably 80% of the time or something like that, they continue higher. But we also still have some good momentum behind this, these selling pressure moves that are still in this stock. That momentum continues lower sometimes. And we haven't had a large buying pressure move. And there's some in there, but today it is showing up a little bit with some selling pressure. So we could come back up to this point here and try to turn right at that support resistance line that we've got drawn in there in the blue line. That is a possibility. Looking at platinum getting that little bloody nose today as well. That's generally a continuation pattern to the upside. So that's looking good. XEU to gold ratio. This one's really hard to read. So we've got a pattern here. We've broken to the downside. So that is one thing we've got there. And this could be kind of like a mid move where we come all the way back down, kind of an ABC type correction. But the projected move on this, if we kind of take the entrance point, something on the lines of that, it's probably close to where it's at. So it could go either way. I don't really worry myself with the short term. I look for buying opportunities. This is still incredibly low. The gold and silver mining companies in relationship to gold, it is super low for this ratio for the gold and silver mining companies. We have not broken that downtrend line for happiness. We're still waiting to do that. So you can either be ultra aggressive, which, I mean, that's up to you on what you want to do and try finding some companies that are cheap, or you can wait for this to develop a little bit better and have, I'll say, a momentum, more of a momentum base to the upside move where you could buy it later, have the momentum in your favor, and buy it after that. But either way, I think we're going to break to the upside, the gold and silver mining companies eventually. It's just the timing. That's the question. GDX, there it is, that same kind of selling pressure day to day, but it's difficult to say where this thing's going to go. We've got this bearish engulfing, which started the selling pressure move, and we've got another kind of selling pressure move there, but you don't really see much selling pressure or much buying pressure. So it's kind of just doing nothing. It's just indecisive at this time. And SILJ is also very similar to that same setup. So I think it could go sideways. It could go either way here, guys, in the short term. I don't see any clear direction. Now, I know people say, oh, I want to see the bigger picture view on where these trend lines are kind of coming. And if we back out in a big picture view, we are just kind of meandering around. In the monthly candlestick, this still looks like we could head lower because we don't have the buying pressure. There's no buying pressure showing up. Buying pressure, you see smaller red candlesticks before it, and then you start to see the green army show up, which you get these big green guys. I'm like, okay, that's going higher. And then it slowly leaks off with these selling pressure. You can see all the small red candlesticks. Generally, that means you're going to probably head higher again at some point. There we go. We're heading on higher. But right now, I don't see the green army showing up. There's no green candlesticks that are large in the short term. Crude oil, you can see the big green guys coming in this month here. The weeklies, there's the weeklies. We're still below that $82 a barrel price that I'm watching. But it does look constructive. It does look good for a potential move on up, and we'll see if we can break through the 82. Natural gas getting just slaughtered today, but again, we had the nice big up day, and I was like, well, a lot of the times it comes back and hits this line. I'm surprised that it's just heading higher. And then today, we just get smoked right back to the line. Interesting how that works out. Lots of volatility. Hold on to your horses. It's going to buck you off, man. A lot of volatility here, but I still like natural gas where it's at from an overall big picture view. It's still very cheap, but it may remain cheap for a while. It may have to bottom out and really, we have to suck down those inventories, and it may take some time. So saddle up and be ready for a ride. XOP, yeah, you know me. little bit of a down day. That is a bloody nose type of situation where we could potentially head higher. We've got the green army showing up, and it's looking all right. But expect some volatility. Natural gas is all over the place, so get ready. OIH, also that small little candlestick that is generally a bloody nose, which heads higher. We're right at that resistance line that we came back on before. But big picture view looks great to move higher. Looks really good if you're a long-term patient investor. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, we still getting this selling pressure. I talked about this last time. The selling pressure, and there's no buying pressure coming in. There's a high likelihood that we could head lower. Well, there's our likelihood today. We headed lower. We're on that support level. That's the support level here. So there's our kind of our retest support level. Now we got to see if the buyers step in or not. That's where we're at. URNM, also getting that selling pressure again. Big selling pressure days, no move higher. Big selling pressure days, no green candlesticks. The green army hasn't shown up here. We're going to continue lower until we get a reversal candlestick and the green army shows up. So we're still getting some selling pressure in uranium at this time, and it's still there. By looking at it today, it's still definitely there. TAN's moving higher. We're up against that trend line. We'll see if we can break it or if we're going to turn back down and stay within the pattern. COPX, a little bit of a down day today, but it's not a reversal candlestick. I think it's just a down day. We've got lithium. The lithium is a bloody nose. It looks like it could continue higher in the short term. We've got REMX. REMX is also selling off a little bit. We are basically converging between the upper trend line and the lower trend line. So we're squeezing on up. The S&P 500, it's basically a flat day today. We've got 2 monster days before it, so this could be maybe a bloody nose or something like that. We'll see if the buying pressure continues. We are above a trend line. Everything looks good for that continuation to the upside to happen. The NASDAQ, slightly lower. Again, it looks good to continue higher. It's not a reversal candlestick per se. And if we do head lower, I just want to see a small little down day, and then I think we'll move on up. Emerging markets also getting a small down day today, down 0.3%. Above support. Everything looks all right. No big deal. XHB also getting a little bit of selling pressure. This is a reversal candlestick where we could head a little bit lower in the short term. It's a bearish piercing candlestick. You can look that up on the internet if you'd like. MU also slightly lower, but we're just squeezing up into this corner here for the agribusiness ETF. Copper still looks fine. It's a battle between the buyers and the sellers. I see large buying pressure and selling pressure candlesticks all in this area. It is confused on which way it wants to go. Confused little copper. Lumber heading a little bit higher. I do think this will work its way on up eventually. What we did is we broke out of this big old pattern to the upside, did a double top Batman, came all the way back down, and then usually get this spike and lower, and then we go and move on up. So I do think we're going to head higher eventually, but we could spend a little bit of time down here before that happens. We've got iron ore futures looking good, breaking to the upside. What the heck is with this chart, guys? I didn't even move this. This is supposed to be up here, so I don't know what's going on with this chart. But we're at 126, right where we're at. So it's looking all right. We've got nickel slightly lower. Again, I think we're going to come to this general area, bottom out, and then move to the upside. This support line is where I think we're going to probably end up. Aluminum a little bit higher, looking all right. I think that'll work its way on higher. Just be patient. We've got Baltic Dry Index, which had a false breakout, and then we're breaking to the upside. That's got a long way to run higher if it chooses to do so before coming overvalued to other assets. This is a very cheap asset right now, or a very cheap sector. And then looking at Newcastle Coal, slightly lower, down 2.12% today. And we're just kind of drifting lower. And I do think it will stay above this breakout basing line, but we could fall further in the short term. Ethereum is, zoom in here. slightly higher, but we're just moving sideways there. I still think it looks fine. Got some good buying pressure, kind of a little bit of selling pressure. It's going back and forth. It's battling. Same with Bitcoin, just battling back and forth. And we're broken out of these downtrend patterns. We're all to the upside. So I still think they look fine. I don't see any reversal candlesticks or anything that means they're going to have a huge sell-off or anything like that. But again, guys, we're all playing with the short term. The short term, anything can happen. Anything can happen. We can go down, we can go up. News can come out and just blow all these charts to smithereens in a short-term move. That's why I don't play the short term. I don't play the short term. But overall, I do try to time my purchases as best I can. I do use technical analysis. I do use the patterns to time my purchases and try my best. And I've got massive tailwinds behind me pushing my investments forward. It's the only time I invest in these sectors is when you've got the tailwinds behind you. But overall, guys, hopefully we can break $82 on oil. That would be a good one to break. That'd be a fun ride higher. Uranium's looking a little bit weak in the short term. Precious metals, it still looks all right. Still looks like we could potentially track higher in precious metals. And some of the other sectors, I still think they look fine. Copper, indecisive there. The overall markets, S&P, NASDAQ, they still look fine. They still look fine. So nothing really to worry about. At least I'm not worried about anything yet. And in the charts, you don't really see anything that would be a monumental, mind-blowing move that I'm worried about. All right, guys, if you like the content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and subscribe to the website if you'd like to see what companies I hold. And we talk about a lot of different companies, so definitely hit up and join our community. All right, guys, we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.